Well, I've often said that to really get a good analysis on Brexit, you have to have a look at what a foreign take is on Brexit. And this comes from the New York Times, and I think this amplifies exactly the situation that we're in. So, a fanatical sect has hijacked British politics. Boris Johnson is positioned to become Prime Minister thanks to a small, underrepresented population of Brexiteer voters bent on destruction. It seems there is only one voter who matters to the British political class right now. A Brexit-obsessed 50-something white man living in rural southern England. Why? Because of a quirk of Britain's unwritten constitution is that the Prime Ministers are often appointed by their parties without facing a general election. John Major, Gordon Brown and Theresa May all entered office as a result of their predecessor resigning and then being selected by their party to take charge. Only Mr Major was ever able to achieve any clear electoral success on his own. Mrs May's resignations last month meant that once again a new Prime Minister will soon be appointed without a democratic mandate. The overwhelming favourite is Boris Johnson, the controversial journalist turned politician with a lifelong weakness for causing offence. There we go. With yet a lifelong weakness for causing offence and a great upset. No. Hang on, there we are. Yep, sorry. This is my phone just going crazy. I don't know why it's doing that. So unless there is a great upset, Mr Johnson's appointment will be announced on July the 23rd, leaving this notoriously reckless figure to navigate Britain's exit from the European Union, which he has confirmed he will be intent on delivering on the October 31st deadline. And if that happens, once he's announced, all bets are off as to what could potentially happen. Each political party has its own way of handling the process. Mr Brown insisted that he had been handed the job by Tony Blair uncontested, which is what happened in 2007. Which was then described as a gigantic fraud at the time by none other than Mr Johnson. For the Conservatives, there is a complicit series of votes among the party's members to whittle things down to two candidates, who are then presented to the party's members. The choice before the Conservative membership is between, of course, Johnson and Hunt, a more trusted and unexciting man with far less appeal to the Conservative base. At a time of deep political and economic anxiety, the contrast is producing the surreal experience of something that feels like democracy. An election campaign season complete with a televised debate and policy announcements, but without any public franchise. In this case, the electorate consists of a mere 160,000 people. That's just 0.3% of the national electorate, who are significantly older and richer than average. And while Mr Johnson is hounded, shall we say, by questions surrounding his honesty and incredulousness, questions that might damage him in a nationwide contest, the Conservative Party membership seems, on view on this, seems that his personality is viewed as an asset. This, of course, is uncharted territory. The Conservative Party rules have changed since Mr Major entered office in 1990 to allow members to have a final say. Mrs May's rivals all withdrew in 2016, so the members weren't consulted. At first glance, a leader elected by 160,000 people might seem to have a greater democratic mandate than one appointed by their own colleagues, but as more becomes known about the unusual identities and priorities of the party members, the worry is that Britain is now in the grip of something combined of the worst aspects of both oligarchy and representative democracy. It might be best described as an unrepresentative democracy. Mr Johnson's appeal to his base rests heavily on his enthusiastic comments about a no deal Brexit, a kamikaze policy that would devastate Britain's economy and produce a state of emergency of basic civil infrastructure. such as the supply of medicines. It would, however, signal a complete rejection of the authority of Brussels, which is why Mr. Johnson toys with it. The fact that a clear majority of the public opposes this idea, for now, is irrelevant. More disturbingly, new polling suggests that the Conservative Party members are now so fixated on Brexit that they believe it is worth doing at any cost, even if it leads to Northern Ireland or Scotland leaving the United Kingdom, significantly damaging the UK economy, or, most strikingly, the destruction of the Conservative Party. For the next few weeks, the most influential force in British politics is a fanatical sect. So how did Britain reach this extraordinary situation? A plausible part of the explanation is that the Conservative Party has been heavily infiltrated by supporters of Nigel Farage, the far-right populist who formerly led the UK Independence Party and who recently established the Brexit Party. His new party took more than a third of the vote in May's European elections, energised the fact that Britain did not leave the European Union on the March 29th date. Last August, Aaron Banks, a major UKIP founder over the years and a backer of the xenophobic Leave.eu campaign, wrote an op-ed of the Times London titled "Join the Tories and Unseat the Traitor Theresa." It is hard to know for certain how many people have followed Banks' advice, but Faragism is clearly penetrated the Conservative Party. 59% of the Conservative Party members voted for the Brexit Party in the European elections. What's more, the majority of Mr. Johnson's supporters in the membership joined the party after the 2016 referendum. The party also appears to have experienced a surge in membership, around 30% since last summer, when the confidence in Mrs. May's Brexit deal started to plummet. Pockets of deep resentment towards governing elites are a feature of most liberal democracies today, to which there are a range of possible responses. What's different in Britain is the collusion between its old-fashioned unwritten constitution and the exceptional drama of Brexit, which has become a Trojan horse through which nationalist, anti-establishment rage is being channeled directly into the corridors of power. For years, the case for reforming Britain's constitution to ensure that parties in Parliament are more representative of the people has been viewed as somewhat of an academic topic, although never urgently enough to demand much attention. Not anymore. For the time being, Mr. Johnson has said enough to reassure the Conservative members that he will govern with the same xenophobic bravado that he has always expressed in his journalism. But if Mr. Johnson's personality offers one glimmer of hope, is that he has never shown any indication of holding principles, and is entirely relaxed about letting people down. So, yeah, nailed it 110% on that one. And we are in for God knows what, essentially. But like I say, if Boris Johnson does get in, there is a large group of people who are prepared and who have expressed their intention to take down the government because they know that a no deal just isn't countable.